Hello? Good God! Dusty Rhodes, the Tower of Power, the man of the hour, too sweet to miss out, getting fucking like a monkey with Diamond Dallas Page. Oh, good God! And it's like, Dusty, I got it strep throat. Dusty? Well, that a recording, kid. I said, no, man, that's me, but I got no throat. He goes, just bring your ass up here, I want to meet you. And I went up and met him, and that's the only reason I ever got in WCW, because I developed a relationship with Dusty Rhodes. And they got to where they didn't want to pay for it. So I said, why don't we just do a search for the Diamond Doll? Because I'm used to doing that in Florida. And the women there who do those contests are smoking hot. Well, now I'm in Michigan. They're not. So I guess I got pretty fucked up that night. And I guess I was pretty obnoxious on the mic during that contest. And it got towards the end of the night, and I was pretty fucked up. I wanted to go home and go to bed. And I went over to Pat, and I go, Pat, come on, man, let's get the fuck out of here. And Bischoff was talking to him. And he looked back at me like, we're talking. And I go, and? I go, Pat, let's get the hell out of here. And one thing turned to another, and next thing you know, Bischoff was like 3rd-degree black belt, you know, been in a million fights. He freaking jumped up and went to grab me, and I went to snatch him, and next thing I was pull apart fight like a wrestling thing. So I left there. Pat and Paul calmed me down, got in the car, went and got something to eat. A couple hours later, we're getting off the elevator. You know, my buzz is pretty much gone by then. And as we get off the elevator, so does Eric and his wife and a couple people from the office. So Pat and Paul look at me, go, D, come on, let's just go on. I'm cool. And then Bischoff started spouting off his mouth, because when he had booze and shots, he's 10 foot tall and bulletproof now, and he started talking shit, and I went right at him again. They pulled me back, and he's like, let him go. So I go back to my room. I know I'm gonna get fired no matter what if I do anything then. I get up the next morning, I'm gonna go, ding! Let's go see how tough that son of a bitch is right now. So I put my boots on, my jeans, I'm putting on my t-shirt, and I hear, and I just assume it's the cleaning lady, and she's coming early, and I open the door, and it's him. Now back then, his hair was down to here, and it was silver, the same color silver it is today. But at 22, Bischoff's hair was silver. So he's got the long hair, he's got the biker jacket on, he looks rode hard and put away wet. And he looks at me, and as I open the door, I go, I was just coming to see you. And he goes, well, I saved you the trip. And then he says, I heard I was a real asshole last night. I go, yeah, you were. And he said, well, there's 2 ways we can fix that. 1, you shake my hand and accept my apology. 2, and he pulled his front 3 teeth out and he said, punch me in the mouth. Do whatever works for you. And I just started laughing. I said, dude, I've been running clubs for 10 years. I have never heard that comeback, ever. I'd much rather shake your hand. I shook his hand, and that was that. Now fast forward, I'm in WCW, and Dusty comes up to me and he says, have you ever heard of this guy, Eric Bischoff? I said, nah, name sounds familiar, but I don't remember him. He goes, yeah, he worked in the AWA with you, and this guy, Jim Hurd, who was running the company, was bringing him in for a tryout. I said, I don't know, he's gonna try out with me, because I'm the 4th string color commentator, and that's where he's gonna slip in if he gets any kind of spot. So, I don't remember him, Dust. He said, well, if you like him, help him. If you don't, just bury him. Okay? So, I'm managing the Freebirds at the time, and CNN, you know, the news network, the WCW's offices were down there at the bottom and at the top. So downstairs we did all of the color voiceovers, all the TV production. So I'm waiting, and I'm an hour late for TV, but Dusty knows I'm gonna be late because I'm waiting for Bischoff. So I'm waiting, and all of a sudden, he walks in the door, but not with that gray hair. He walks in looking like that Ken doll that you remember. And I recognize him immediately, but I can't make any reference to anything because we gotta get this done and I gotta get out the door. So I shake his hand, I go, hey man, good to see you. We gotta get in the booth and do this. So we do it, first time all the way through. It's about 6 minutes. And I know that he hasn't done any play-by-play. And I know Dusty said he's the play-by-play guy and that's what they want. So I told him that. I said, so why don't you do the play-by-play and I'll do the color? And we get halfway into the match and he's doing the same shit. And I realize, I go, stop the tape right here. I go, you don't know the names of the moves, do you? He goes, no, I don't. I go, okay. Now remember, I like the guy, all right? So I go, all right, well, let's do this. So he goes, a collar and elbow lock up. Boom, pulls you right into the headlock right there. And he works up to the top wrist lock. You talk about that, and then when he takes the big tackle and rolls out, I'll talk about powdering out, smart move, blah, blah, blah. We go through the whole test like that, like 6 times. Now he's got it. He sounds like Jim Ross. I mean, he's got it down. I go, okay guys, we got it down now. Let's put this on tape because I got to get the hell out of here. And he puts his hand on my leg and he goes, hold on a second. He goes, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He goes, do you remember me? I go, yeah, you're the guy I almost got in a fight with in AWA. He goes, okay, just checking. And later on, we would buy houses across the street from each other on the opposite side of the hill, never knowing where we were. Neither one of us knew Atlanta, Georgia, but he's a smart-ass business sumbitch. And because of our friendship, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, it was huge for my career, and it hurt my career. Because he would never do the buddy thing, like the nepotism. If you knew how I had to fight for every dime I ever got, and every spot I ever got. The only thing I had from Eric Bischoff that was vital, and I didn't realize it until much later, was he wouldn't let anybody stab me in the back. And that is vital in professional wrestling, really any world. But he knew who I was, of a man of character, so when some fucker tried to bury me, he would just say, that ain't Paige. Now, I know what you're saying. There's a one point in time he said to me, you gotta stop being so honest and stop telling people the truth. I go, really? Stop telling people the truth? Yeah, well, I'm not gonna stop that.
Sorry, mate.
So kind of going on from that, I guess for people who don't really know much about your WCW career, maybe 1% of the audience, in the mid-90s you were in your mid-30s, some of the people in the office who were booking the show weren't getting behind you, and then they brought in a shitload of ex-WWF stars led by Hulk Hogan. How did you end up overcoming all of that?
Well, you have to understand, I started at 35 and a half. I wrestled for about 9 or 10 months. I tore my rotator cuff. I was actually tagging with Kevin Nash at the time, and they let me go. Bill Watts came in to run it, and my contract was up, so they let me go. That's where Jake Roberts came into my life. And he really became the mentor to me of not just ring work, but when people would try to stab me or talk bad about me or whatever they did, he taught me how to get around it. And so, having Jake and Dusty as your two mentors, I can't even explain how valuable that was. But I also created real relationships with them, and they would put their name on the line for me. So that helped, immeasurably. And when you have someone believing in you like Dusty Rhodes, who drew more money than just about anybody, and Jake Roberts, who drew probably equal money, and then later it would be Hulk Hogan, You know, it's about having guys who believe in you that push the naysayers out of the way.
And by 96, WCW was #1, mostly on the back of the NWO angle. Now there was a really infamous Monday Nitro episode where you teased that you were going to join. You were in the ring with Hall and Nash, you were in the NWO shirt, and then you turned on them, giving the diamond card. So, exactly. Jesus. So, how did that all come about? Was that because of your prior relation with them?
The bookers, the guys who made the decision. Bischoff had the rule at the end, but if it was a committee thing, he wouldn't go against it. And he kept hitting home run after home run by getting the Disney deal that nobody believed in. He brought in Hogan, nobody believed in that. Nobody believed in Savage. These were all things that gave WCW little notches up. And by the time he was doing the NWO thing, which literally originated in my garage drinking Coors Light. And you know, they actually put that over in the NWO best stuff on WWE. The angle when there was no third person, just so you know that. Like when they were saying we'll bring our third person, there was no third person. And Scott and Kev were getting over so strong, and if you remember the red and yellow with Hulk, it was really starting to fade off. Each of might have been saying your prayers, like they were shitting on it to a certain degree. You know, the hardcore fan loved it, but the cool fan was like, he ain't cool. But what would make him cool? Well, hooking up with the two coolest guys maybe ever in professional wrestling. And when Hulk made that switch, I mean, that was talked about. Me and Bish would talk about that at a place called the Longhorn Saloon. And he was like, Hogan's thinking about being that third guy. I'm like, really? Wow, that would really help. That would really help his career. Never really realizing that it would blow everything like out of proportion. So, but I gotta tell you, I politicked to try to be that third guy, because I was still down here. I just needed that nudge. I knew I needed it. But, I mean, I wasn't the third guy, but I'm still gonna politic like a son of a bitch for it. And it wasn't gonna happen. So, what happens to the fourth guy? Well, that became Ted DiBiase. Well, what about the fifth guy? I'm the only guy with a real relationship. I created Scott Hall's gimmick. From the toothpick, to the hair, to the beard, everything. Ask him, he'll tell you the whole story. And he's one of the few guys who actually remembers. A lot of guys you help, they forget. Scott don't forget anything like that. It's another reason why he's living in my house. Because we have a relationship, we always look out for each other. Even though we bust each other's balls, we always look out for each other. But I had a real relationship. I managed him, and I helped create his gimmick. And Kevin Nash was my tag team partner. These guys were my legitimate friends. I'm the guy who called Kevin Nash and said, dude, they want you here. You know, so no one else could make that call. So long story short, I wanted to be like number 4, number 5. Then when it didn't happen, number 6, and I knew the bookers still didn't see me what I called the bottom of the top.